I'm Shreen Saroor. I'm a peace and human rights activist.
Why is the pillar reparations important in the process of transitional justice?
So reparation is very important pillar of the transitional justice, mainly because it involves guaranteed non-recurrence or non-repetition, and it also involves trust building and correcting the human rights violations or mass atrocities that has been committed against a particular community in a region or a group of people. Reparation also involves truth-seeking process plus access to justice, because any guaranteed non-recurrence involves finding out the truth and making sure the justice is served for not only victim but also perpetrators are punished, so that there is not going to be there is not going to be repetition of the atrocities. At the same time, reparation also involves looking at inequalities and discriminations committed traditionally as well, and also the cause for the conflict or the war, which means that a possible solution to the initial problem or root cause also need to be looked at through any reparation process.
What do you think of the Office of Reparations? What have they achieved so far?
So in Sri Lanka, from the initial stage, from 2018 onward, when the law got passed on reparation, there has been a misunderstanding of the concept of reparation. They have restricted the reparation to materialistic reparation, or shrunk the reparation to only to compensation. Therefore, the victims fear that if they engage in the process of reparation, that they will be compromising on seeking justice and also finding out the truth. And also, reparation in Sri Lanka has not adequately consulted the victim communities, and it has also been headed such a way that the victims have not been treated as right holders. Reparation itself is a legal liability to a party that has committed atrocities against a particular community. So the victims are the right holders, so you need to treat them in a dignified manner, and also much more consultative manner when you design your reparation program. In Sri Lanka, it didn't happen that way. So it's also interesting that the OMP has recommended roughly about 6,000 rupees for the families of disappeared, and so far, to my knowledge, these poor women have not even got reparation, leave alone women don't wanting to access reparation. There are older mothers, particularly from south, during JVP time when lots of people disappeared. Those mothers want some form of reparation because they are in a tail end of their life, and they have lost their family members, and they need some form of reparation. And what I heard more recently is highly problematic, because the budget allocation of the reparation last couple of years has been used to compensate the politician of this country, because in the aftermath of Aragalaya attack, some of the politicians' properties have been burned, and they have used the reparation money to compensate the politician. So we have to understand that the reparation is part of the transitional justice processes. So it is being set up in order to look at the victims who have suffered of the war in this country. These are a group of people who have been facing atrocities at the hand of state, and it's a state responsibility to address these issues. But if the state is allocating reparation under the pretext of that they are looking after the affected people, the victims, if they are using that money for their own politicians to get compensation, it is highly problematic. It is actually corruption, and that need to also to be looked at.
So government would only give money if there is a death certificate. So people also do not want to accept this death certificate sometimes. And also there is this talk about the certificate of absence. what is the situation with all these certificates?
So when we talk about reparation, as I define very broadly, it looks into correcting the atrocities that has been committed against a group of people. So, and also it is one of the pillar of the transitional justice processes. So, in Sri Lanka, we had the Office of Missing Persons, which was supposed to find out the truth about missing people, and to certain extent to hold some of the people who were liable for making people disappear accountable. But what happened was, very interestingly, with the reparation process, the Sri Lankan government came up with this idea of issuing certificate of missing, because the victim themselves realize obtaining death certificate means it will close their justice demand of finding out about the truth. But it was not communicated properly, because the certificate of missing was connected to material reparation, that is compensation. So from the initial stage onward, the Sri Lankan government failed to understand what reparation mean to people, because it is, you can't completely close the truth-seeking process or access to justice by only tying people's agony to money and material stuff. So the victims were very sharp. They understood that what the government is trying to do is to make sure that their cases are closed by just giving them material compensation, and not to promote access to justice and also finding out about the truth, because it's the whole transitional justice process in Sri Lanka was built on impunity, protecting the perpetrators and disregarding the victim's right to access to justice and truth. So therefore, it didn't go very far with the victims.
A lot of people who fight for justice are women. What are the special challenges which women face when they try to go and get reparations?
Okay, so when we talk about women, oftentimes people misunderstand transitional justice process and reparation directly connected to sexual violence against women. It is not so. There is sexual violence against women that need to be looked at, but women experience war differently. Now for Sri Lanka, it's a very good example how mothers of disappeared are struggling for the last 7 years on the roadside, demanding for justice. We have lost about 200 odd elderly mothers because of this demand being not met, and them being not regarded as victims. They need those need access to justice. And also we say, for example, we have ex-LTT cadre, female cadres, who are being completely disregarded, and there is a traditional stigma that is attached to them living in the society. That has not been looked at. And also we have, already women are marginalized. In that context, we also have women who are physically challenged because of the war. Large number of women, young women, also are physically challenged. So when you are in a patriarchal society that is very much male dominant, it is extremely difficult for women to access services. So we need to be very careful in the post-war context when we establish processes that are to look into reparation or any justice or truth-seeking process. It should represent women adequately. It should look at gender-related challenges that our women are facing very proactively. I don't think any of the mechanisms so far set up has considered that as their priority.